All right, this is Nifty Culture. I'm Pio. I'm here with Mal. How's it going, Mal?
Great. It's a great day. Happy to be here.
Sounds good. So why don't we just get right into it and start talking about, the current climate of the NFT space. I'd say the big project of the last 24 to 72 hours, right? Like the past 2 to 3 days, which it can feel like a lifetime in the NFT space, is the Super Yeti Collectibles drop on OpenSea. This is a project that follows the model of CryptoPunks, and we've seen several of these catch fire in the past 4 to 6 weeks. 10,000 unique Yetis. They have different characteristics, different degrees of scarcity, and the project is being used to fund a video game, which I think is relatively new. We saw Camels funding a movie. So this is kind of a new approach that people are taking in the collectibles market. It's in the heat of what I would say is like a macro bull run for NFTs that corresponds to the Bitcoin/crypto bull run. And yeah, things have been kind of up and down all the way around. So I know you have a lot to say about this. What are your thoughts on where we're at right now with Yetis and NFTs in general?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was really interesting, and for a detailed, initial drop, we did a video. I encourage everyone that's watching this and they want to learn, all the details about that to go watch that video. What's interesting for me is the comments afterwards. So the people that weren't watching it live, the people that watched it after the fact, really describing that we, eviscerated the project. And I don't think that's entirely true. I think we were being objective. I do think it was somewhat more negative than even we expected to be when we're going into it. But we found a lot of flaws, and it's important for us. It's important for the community. It's important for the collectors. It's important for that project and future projects to hold themselves to a higher standard. And so us pointing out flaws with, possible misspellings, shadow issues, those types of things, it's not intentional. It's just to bring objective criticism to these projects. And, we will do that for all projects moving forward. And we didn't do that as well with some of the projects before, but we're learning. And as we learn, we are going to change our methods. Objectively, yesterday, Nick said a really great point that at one point, it may have been you, Pio, at one point, if you bought one of these Yetis at retail, you were in the green. And so you could have sold that Yeti before launch, knowing what they look like as those flaws were starting to come out, and still made a bit to a lot of money, anywhere from 50% to 100% gain. And so the critique is really around just that there were flaws. It was a hasty project. They were adding attributes at the last minute, and the market is becoming oversaturated right now with these collectibles. So there were a lot of dynamics outside of our opinions that were affecting the flow of this, and we weren't surprised. We suspected, and we've talked about it numerous times on numerous streams, Discord, blogs, that the market can't sustain 50,000 collectibles all doubling in value. The rare collectibles will be rare and valuable, agnostic of the collection, but this is going to be an anchor for these more common attributes across all collectibles, not just the latest ones. And so it's a brief recap of what we thought about yesterday.
Sure. And, I'm interested, I find it fascinating that people said that we completely eviscerated the project. I think that we pointed out flaws, like you said. I also think that Nifty Mike of Nifty Culture, Mike did an excellent job of giving an early breakdown on different features in the Yeti drop, right? So due diligence was absolutely performed on the Yetis. I think the thing missing from our stream yesterday on the Yeti subject is like a Yeti bull, like someone that's really like bullish on the Yeti project. But it's kind of hard to be when Bored Apes, the Bored Ape Yacht Club project, right, which is kind of the first project that blew up with the structure of CryptoPunks, like the 10,000 unique apes, different levels of rarity. It's kind of the first copycat, so to speak, the first thing that's structured like CryptoPunks. It has very unique features like owning the intellectual property of the apes, and the general social club factor. So I'm not calling it a copycat. It's inspired by CryptoPunks. And then we saw Gutter Cats come out with a slightly different model where there were only 3,000 rather than 10,000, which I think is a major factor. Daniel, who collaborates with us, he's very bullish on that feature of cats. And then the Yetis, came out along with camels, along with bonsais. There's just so many of these collectibles markets, right? And so the NFT space is very complex because obviously it's an art-focused space, but the collectibles factor can't be slept on. And there's people like Nick, sophisticated art speculator, who's effectively a member of NiftyCulture at this point, who's on the collectible side, right? But then there's these affiliated artists that we work with and that we interview and we communicate with all the time, that are really friends of the brand. And they have a particular feeling themselves, considering that when they create art, it's a major contribution to the NFT space. So the bottom line is it's a new space, it's based on new technology, and it combines a few different kind of fields, like the collectibles side, the art side, and it'll just be interesting to see how all of this shakes out. Obviously, there's room for everything, but these are very, very different things, and some people get into this space to have relationships with artists, to collect art, to be patrons of the arts, and some people get into it as if they were trading like baseball cards or Pokemon cards from back in the day, and they're doing collectibles trading and flipping to be able to either acquire something that will have long-term appreciation or make a quick flip and have alpha.
Yeah, I mean, those are really good points. It's really interesting. I was talking to Joff earlier on our Discord. Shout out to Joff. Shout out to Tal. Y'all have been great in the community, really helping us behind the scenes with a lot of stuff. But this is a big concern that artists have, and one of the challenges that we have, in my opinion, is that there's a lot of moving parts, as you alluded to. We've got the collectibles, we have the $69 million Beeple auction, we have parabolic value going on in Nifty Gateway, which now we're seeing a lot of artists, actually, like artists that could be on Nifty Gateway that don't want to be on Nifty Gateway. They don't want that six-figure payday because it could tarnish their brand and the value of all their other work forever. And so we forget oftentimes how new this market is. And what's really interesting is that if we think of the traditional art world and we think about what NFTs offered, is right at the beginning, everyone was super excited that we don't have to go through a curator anymore. We can give our art to the people. We're not being controlled. They're not taking their cut. All of those dynamics were at play. But what happened is this excitement has also brought in imposters. And I know XCopy's tweet, it's one of my favorite tweets, decide you're an artist, you're an artist. And that's fundamentally true. But if you're creating art for art's sake, or if you're trying to cash grab, those are two different things. If I'm a profiteer first, I'm not an artist. If I'm an artist who makes money off of my art, that's a completely different mindset. And the challenge I think that many collectors are having is, do I place my bets into unknown artists that don't have curated experiences, where I can't really tell if this artist is going to be here tomorrow, 3 years from now, 10 years from now? Am I buying something that may have copyright complications? And so there's a lot of collectors that are sitting on the sidelines right now. And we see exceptions with Super Rare and Maker's Place and Known Origin, these really curated experiences. And that's awesome. But not every artist can get on those marketplaces immediately. And so then we're trying to engage very closely with the artists because we love the art aspect of it. You and I, in particular, I think our passions fundamentally started from the art side and has grown and changed. And I think that, there's an opportunity long-term to fix a lot of this, but I think that the artists need to be patient. They need to also realize that just because a collector is buying an ape or a cat or a Yeti or an alien, it doesn't mean that if they weren't going to buy that, they were going to buy your art. They may not have ever been a purchaser of that art. They could be a tangential person who came in from altcoins and they don't really care. So I think your point about the Pokemon cards, the baseball cards versus true art collectors is a really succinct interpretation of kind of what's going on right now.
For sure. And you touched upon it earlier. There's no way that the collectibles craze right now, in this the next 2 months, let's say, for a time horizon, there is no way that it is sustainable. It's become an opportunity basically to raise money, like whether you're raising that money just for your own profits or whether you're raising that money for another project, the Camels with their movie and the Yetis with the video game, right? So, you know, it has become a business plan, and that's a lot different than a lifelong artist pouring their heart and soul into work that they finally have an opportunity to sell, you know, for some kind of profit. Like if they sold it on Nifty Gateway in March, it would realistically be major profit on the primary market, and now probably a little bit less, but nonetheless much more money than they would just trying to like sell prints online or go to like some sort of gallery or auction house or something, because obviously those are much more challenging unless you are like Van Gogh or Koons or, you know, some sort of like, you know, brand name artist. It's going to be very hard to make money that way. But when you think about it, all of these collectibles drops are selling out. It's amazing. The Bonsai sold out, the Bored Apes sold out, you know, and they're performing well. Like Bored Apes is performing incredibly well on the secondary market as well. Cats sold out in like an hour or 2 hours, however long, 15 minutes, whatever it took. And now Yetis have sold out. There's this new project, Hash Garage, where it's like all different kinds of little cars. It's well on its way to selling out. So it's become just a business plan where, you know, 3 or 4 people can get together and say, hey, let's come up with this idea of like a finite number, 10,000, 5,000, however many collectibles. This will be the theme. There's different degrees of rarity. So it just becomes something that happens in like a conference room with a whiteboard to just kind of plan something out. You put a little bit of marketing behind it, and before you know it, you sell out. And all of these drops sell out for 1 million plus, like 7-figure revenue, and that's before you factor in any secondary sales, and they all always have secondary sales. So it's just like this cash machine, and it just can't be sustainable, because how many people are working on things like this right now to try to capitalize on this, and how many people realize that realistically you're going to have to capitalize on this before the end of this year, before like October, November, because that's when, you know, the speculation is that the crypto / Bitcoin bull run will conclude.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting points. I think the first thing is, you know, how much of this is new money coming into the marketplace and how much of this is money being shuffled around. We're working on an analysis right now with the OpenSea API to see how, you know, how many we know at a high level how many individual owners there are within each project, but we don't know how many individual owners there are across these collectible projects. And so it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how much money from, you know, 10%, 20% is investing across all of these versus what new is coming in. And I think that's going to be the biggest tell for a lot of the success of these projects from a purely speculative standpoint. If a lot of new money continues to come in, there's continued opportunity for this bubble. And in my opinion, these collectibles right now are a bubble. I do like that some of them are presenting utility, but I think short term, it is just a bunch of, in certain instances, cash grabs or people trying to fund another project, as you discussed. So it's going to be really interesting in the short term. You know, I still am bullish on the Bored Ape Yacht Club because they've proven so much utility. There's the derivative aspects of it. There's some really cool merch. I saw one of the tweets actually was it was one of the community ones, and I'll DM it to you real quick. It's really interesting because this Bored Ape created his own concept of calling himself Jenkins the Valet, and it's pretty funny to think like now he's creating merch, or they are creating merch like with this derivative. Close that messages if you don't mind. Project of you know what they interpreted their ape looked like, and they thought it was a valet, and so they're doing all this cool stuff. And so what excites me, not to always talk about the Bored Apes, is like there's these cool ideas. There's this cool sense of community. Even though people have cats, a lot of them still have the Bored Ape. I think 888 is still an ape. And so when you look at a lot of there's two contradictory ideas, is that the rarity of the cats makes it inherently more valuable because fewer people ultimately could have access to the cats. But then there's the marketing component where there's such loyal fervor around the apes that there's 10,000 people that can all have not 10,000, but 5,000. There's more individual owners of apes than total cats can ever have. And if 90% of those apes have their profile picture on Twitter as an ape, that is such a massive marketing movement. And that can't compete with the cats. And so I think that can create that floor that people will be less, they'll be more likely to want a floor ape, regardless of what it looks like, than some of the other projects, which will continue to rise that floor, which we're seeing it, even after 3 launches of collectibles, the floor dropped temporarily to like 1.4, but it's back above 1.7, I believe. And I think it'll go to 2 here in the very near future. So I think the apes are strong. I think some of the other projects just, they'll lose a little bit of wind. And you're absolutely right. I think whenever this run ends, it's going to be catastrophic, especially for collectibles.
It'll be a good buying opportunity, that's for sure. I didn't know about Jenkins, the valet. That's absolutely hilarious. And he definitely looks like a valet. And I love that, that's what happens when you have the intellectual property, right? So that he's like literally created a character just based off of one image. And then he, is running with it, selling merch and, making a whole character. So I love it. I think that Bored Apes kind of had first mover advantage on these the new batch of collectibles because this is yours. I saw this. I love this. And I think you should make t-shirts of this immediately.
And I don't know. I mean, it's a rough idea. I just thought about it this morning when I saw Jenkins, but I was like, you know what? Like, I have this dead ape with the coins on the eyes, and it looks awesome, and it was orange, and I have the sushi chef hat. And I was like, man, it'd be cool. Like, what if there was like a dead ape sushi bar in the metaverse? Because the sushi hat and the dead ape have these micro communities within the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and both of them are pretty strong. So what if I could bring these communities together somehow in the future metaverse? And like, that's the cool thing about the utility of these Bored Apes. And I'm just having fun with it. It'll probably change quite a bit. But Jenkins, this is a derivative of Jenkins the valet now, and so there's just a lot of cool stuff going on.
I love it, man. I think that the logo for this ape, for the dead ape sushi bar, for however you want to run with this, I think the logo has to be the headband and the buttons over the eyes. Like, I feel like that is the logo for this. Like, you can throw that on a hat, you can do all that. It's like bigger than the ape itself. But I absolutely love this. I think it's hilarious that you cooked this up real quick. And I want to go to the dead ape sushi bar as soon as it opens.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's wild. It's just so much fun to be, and that's the thing. I'm gonna say something dangerous about the Yetis again. Is like when you look at the Yetis, like what frustrates you is like they all look like Mike Wazowski, right? And from Monsters Inc. And it's like, cool, if my Yeti, regardless of what outfit it's wearing, regardless of what's happening, it's just not, they're all the same Yeti. They're not a truly, I just canceled. I had my Bored Ape for sale and I just canceled it because I want to keep it forever. But,
nice.
I think that, there's less of that individuality. And so I think there's an opportunity for more projects, but I think they have to be really unique, individual. The Gutter Cats had personality, and you and I talk about this nonstop. It's create art that tells a story. And like this Bored Ape with its dead eyes and its sushi cap, to me, because of Jenkins the valet, now all of a sudden it has a story to tell. And it's a collectible, but it's a piece of art. And it can tell a story. And so I think that's the big issue. And I think going back to the artist aspect is a lot of people are throwing art up that's a derivative of X copy, that's trash art, that's all these things. And a lot of that art isn't telling stories. And so they're saying, why aren't people buying my art? Well, you haven't gone through the pain, you haven't gone through the exercise of destroying something beautiful to create that art, to tell that story. And I think that's where a lot of that's why Ferocious is so popular. That's why a lot of these artists do tell stories, and there's passion, and people can feel that, they can see it in that art. And what really excites me is that it doesn't matter the medium. Even in a digital setting, I can relate to this type of stuff. And so the NFT medium can be here forever. We have to tell better stories. So that's what's really important to me, what's really exciting.
I think you couldn't have said it better. I think that hits the nail on the head. The bottom line is like, even if it's a collectible, the art has to be good, right? Like if you look at the physical collectibles world, people aren't buying collectibles that like don't look good. you know, like basketball cards, baseball cards, like the ones that are, I understand, like, you know, a Michael Jordan rookie is a big deal, but I like the art style of that stuff. I think that stuff was made well. I think before the internet, to get anything made, to get anything manufactured, it had to be pretty good, you know, and now that we have the internet, anyone can just put any bullshit out there. Like I can literally put a doodle out on and mint it on the blockchain and say that that's my NFT, you know? So
yeah,
the cats, the apes, it's good art. You know, apes took attention away from Beeple, who is like the artist in the NFT space. They dropped the same weekend as his spring drop. So, you know, you saw it right there. I think the popularity of the apes is, you know, credit to how strong the art is and how much it, like, you know, just kind of speaks to people. So, all right, we're at 20 minutes. Great stuff, Mal.
I just wanted to say one more thing. Sorry. I know we're running a bit long, but 2 real quick comments. They stole attention away from Beeple and they stole wallet share from CryptoPunks. And real quick, I think that one of the things people need to think about is like everything essentially is a derivative of the CryptoPunks. They're all the same avatar with slightly different attributes. I don't know if you remember this growing up. You and I are close to the same age. I'm a bit older, but when I was a kid, I used to love like the monsters in my pocket. Did you ever know what those were? Like they're these little collectibles. They were rubber. Like why can't someone go do that with Collectible? Where there are, and I've seen a few of them, but they're not well done. A really well polished collectible. They can be different creatures, but they're still in the same collection. They have different attributes. I think that there's still a lot of room to grow this collectible space. I think we're just not doing a great job saying, okay, let's put one avatar and throw a bunch of different outfits on it and see what sticks. And so I just wanted to make sure I got that point home because we're not anti all future collectibles. The level of scrutiny for each future collectible has to increase. It has to be better than the previous to take attention away from that. So I just wanted to throw that final point out there.
For sure, man. Monsters in My Pocket was good art. And like the action figures that I had when I was a little kid were good. You know, like that's the point, is that it was always good. It was harder to get stuff made back in the day. And now you can just literally put out anything. And we're seeing, you know, that happen at least in some parts of the NFT space. Like I'm not going to name specific projects, but if you go on OpenSea and look at some of the collectibles projects that are like, you know, down towards the bottom of the top 100, even, you know, in the top 50, they're not that good in terms of like how much like polish was put in to the actual art side. So we're definitely on the same page there, and I hope nobody misconstrues what we're saying. We're just trying to like keep it objective, and there's 2 sides, right? There's the art, the collectibles, there's a lot going on with NFTs, there's utility, so there's always a lot for us to talk about. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Please follow at NFTCulture on Twitter. Please join our Discord. We tweet out the link to that all the time. Please follow us on Instagram as well, also at NFTCulture. And of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and we will be doing more and more of these sort of recap videos. So thanks for your time, Mal.